Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks. We're going to have a look at all the various facilities that you can use to upgrade your warehouse, design bureau, engineering bureau, resource bureau, admin building and production hall. Which ones are worth it and which ones less so. Start with the warehouse. Over here you both get and send supplies on their way. And not just supplies, if you're selling supplies in the first place, this is also where you ship and store your tanks. So, a couple of the buildings that you can get. The tank depot. This is pretty straightforward. You just store 50 more tanks. It can be very useful to have more tanks. Because if you don't have a contract, but you are already making tanks, then you can get much easier a far better contract. Because by doing so, you can shorten the amount of time that you need to ship the tanks. So having additional warehouse storage, definitely very useful. Would I recommend it as an early game upgrade? Not really. It's pretty expensive at 90k, and beyond that, I don't feel like you really need the additional storage space. Stockpile depot allows you to store a whole bunch more stuff. This can be pretty valuable if you want to give one big order in the production warehouse or the production building. The problem that I find is that you generally don't really need this, especially early game, because you simply don't have that many resources. Nor can you really afford them. And if you plan your production right, as well as plan your delivery of new resources right, you don't really need these additional 75k. Loading safety stations. This one, bonus to tank delivery reliability. Now, once you start shipping a tank, you're going to run into issues where sometimes the safety, and as such the reliability, is not that good. So sometimes you're going to see that, for example, with Richelieu, you're going to have a delivery speed of 8 days with a medium safety, which means there's a variation of about 7 days. That can kick in, and when it does, well, you are going to be suddenly shipping the tank in 15 days, which, if you're dealing with a deadline, not great. The problem that I have with this particular building is that this is a bit of a soft stat. It says you get a 10% bonus to tank delivery reliability, but I don't know what the base stat is. That makes me a bit reluctant to recommend this building. Loading speed stations. This is one that has a very clear advantage. It reduces the time it takes to get a tank to the particular client. So whereas normally it would take, for example, 12 days, you then take 15% off of that. And that is a guaranteed reduction in delivery time. Which, if you do tandem that with the tank depot, can mean that you can have a lot of tanks stored, and you can ship them very quickly. And these two go very well together. You don't strictly need the tank depot though, but I would highly recommend the loading station speed. Unloading stations, or unloading safety stations. It's pretty much the same in reverse. Again, though, it is the reliability stat. So when you're getting supplies, you can have delays. Not great. I don't just really know what the delivery reliability is. Like, it says medium or high or low. Is that 50% chance? Is that 25% chance? What exactly does the reduction do? For the moment, I would not strictly use this. Scrap depot. Let's say you do have only 50 slots and you want to scrap your tanks. This is how you do that. But scrapping tanks does not give you a whole lot of the resources back. With the scrap depot you do, but I think it's a trash building. And I don't mean that as a pun. Because if you're scrapping tanks, then either something has gone horribly wrong in your whole production line, like you've produced way too many tanks that for some reason you can't sell, or you missed a deadline and now you're stuck with a whole bunch of tanks that are, again, unsellable. Don't build this. Supply depot. 25% bonus to raw resource prices sold by the player. I have never sold resources in this game. Maybe it's a very interesting commodity market to start selling things on, but I generally just don't do it, so skip the supply depot. Truck freight allows you to get better reliability and better supply reliability, so both your outgoing and ingoing or inbound traffic gets a reliability boost. Again, it doesn't really say what that is, so skip it. Naval freight provides bonus for reduction of tank delivery time. There it is again. 15%. We already had a look at this one. Reduction of tank delivery time, 15%. These two go together very, very well. I'm not sure if the 15 plus 15 is cumulative or if it is additive. So, sorry, if it is multiplicative. Let's assume it is additive. And that means you're going to get a 30% reduction in tank delivery time. That can mean that you might be able to make a very tight deadline, allowing you to punch up the price a little higher and make even more money. Definitely recommend. The benefit that this thing also has is that it reduces the time to get resource delivered to you. So ideally, build a naval freight station first. It is better than the loading speed stations. Now those are the ones for the warehouse. Ideally, get the loading speed, get the naval freight. Beyond that, maybe the tank depot, if you are planning on building a whole lot of tanks. And then again, if you have a whole lot of tanks, and you get the loading speed and the naval freight, you can ship those out very quickly. So I'd say there is quite a bit of combination benefit there. Design Bureau. You need a couple of different ones. The Breakthrough Building, or the Breakthrough Bureau, gives you a 5% chance of completing a project in 1 day. Which sounds amazing. I mean, yeah, snap your fingers, 1 day and you instantly get a design done. The problem is, the game is, at the moment, not particularly stellar in explaining exactly how much chance that is. Apparently there is a chance, but is that a chance of 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 15? The 5% is going to make quite a bit of difference. But for me, it is too vague, so I've never built this. Ergonomics building, extremely valuable, because especially in the current version, the early access one, this is 1.1.0, we don't yet have the ability to add additional process lines. So having additional people work on one line, very, very valuable. Get the ergonomics office if you can afford it. Yes, it's expensive, but just getting your designs out faster might mean you get a tech advantage over the others. And a tech advantage, I mean, because you'll be able to get better designs out faster. Design Department, dedicated to assisting and boosting design teams when the need arises. With what? Well, with reduction of tank design process time. So this is a flat 5%, let's say, shortcut that you get. It is not as vague as the other one. It is quite clear. You just get 5% reduction time. Next up, optimization. This one reduces the resource cost of the designed tank. Very valuable. Because having this, and then having, let's say, an expensive tank, 5% can add up. Especially if you have a winner of a tank, and you might be able to sell, let's say, 100, 200 of those units. 5% adds up. This is a very valuable building. Localization department. What does this do? It reduces the man-hour cost. This one goes very well with the optimization department because the optimization makes it cheaper to build. And this one makes it faster to build because you get a 5% reduction of the amount of man-hours that it takes. So basically the amount of days that it takes. And that the man-hour cost, of course, is broken up between all the various men that you have working on that line. Compliance office. Reduction of defect severity. I don't find defects to be very severe anyway. At least in the current version, you plunk a vehicle that you've designed into the proving grounds, and you fix all the defects for, I don't know, 20k. You do that for one vehicle, you sell one vehicle at 20k, and you've made a return. I don't find the compliance office to be valuable at all. Functionality department. Basically, it does both what the optimization department and localization department do. It just does a bit less of it. 3% reduction in cost and 3% reduction in man-hour cost. So again, valuable. If you have to pick 4, ergonomics office, optimization, localization, functionality. Next up, engineering. We have 9 options. Again, we find the ergonomics office, which again allows you to add 10 men. 10 engineers onto a line is very valuable. I really recommend the ergonomics office. The Breakthrough Bureau, again, it's awfully vague. What is my chance to get this thing done in a day? I don't know. And because I can only have 4 buildings in the current version, I'll not pick this. The Hull Workshop. Now this is where it gets interesting. 10% reduction of time for hull projects. The hull tends to take the longest amount of time because it's most of the time the biggest part of the tank. Things like the turret, the power unit, so the engine, the running gear, especially these, I don't find that they take that much time at all. Primary weapon workshop, secondary weapon workshop, so your main gun and your soft powers or your machine guns. I don't really find that these are that slow. Like they take what? A machine gun if you got a whole bunch of guys working on this, and you can add an administrator. Plus the ergonomics office, you can get 30, 40 guys on a line. The secondary weapons and the primary weapons are going to go very quickly. So turret, power, running gear, primary weapons, secondary weapon, I don't care for these. Reverse engineering is the one that provides the same bonus, but when you're reverse engineering projects. I don't find it that valuable. It is pretty expensive for what it does, and if it's able to take, like, what, a couple days off your journey? Well, I don't find it that valuable. So, normally, I'd say pick 4, but in this case, not really. Pick the ergonomics office, get the whole workshop, and call it a day. Save the rest of your money for something else. Research. Couple of the same buildings as we've already seen. Ergonomics office is the one that adds 10 guys, extremely valuable. Early game, however, be careful not to add ergonomics offices to everything, because they do have a maintenance cost, and they have that 90k first building cost. I am in 1914 October, so it's really early game. I have 705k. This would take a really sizable chunk of money. Early game, not that recommended, although it is your research. This is probably the first building I would actually consider getting this for, because it adds up. If you're able to get something done faster than the opposition, like you're able to get the better armor out, or maybe the better gun, that can give you a sizable market advantage. So the ergonomics office for the research building is highly recommended. Breakthrough? Vague. Not doing it. Structure lab, mobility lab, firepower lab, these all give you bonuses to the various parts of the tech tree. Considering that I was able to get the tech tree done pretty smoothly in another campaign that I did, I don't find this to be that valuable. Does it really, like, is it really worth 60k to build and then 3.5k per month to maintain? Maybe. Like, maybe over the long haul, and I'm talking 20, 30 years, if you're able to get the next tech tree unlocked and keep going at a good rate, maybe. Otherwise, not really. Material division, component division. These things give you reduction of research cost for most common nodes that unlock components and modifications. Bit of a fancy way of saying we have a node, like this one, that unlocks other parts. At least that's my understanding of it. If you get one of these things researched, this basically makes it faster, because these nodes tend to take a bunch more time. Does that really make it so valuable? I would beg not. I don't think it's that valuable. Innovative division. Reduction of research cost for special nodes that unlock various types of alloy and assembly processes. So this is how you build your tanks. It's the armor, it's the nailing, the riveting. It's pretty much the same thing. It's unlocking nodes faster. I don't find it that valuable. Analytics division, bonus to analytics discount for all research nodes. Now, I'm honestly not too sure what that does. I'm not sure if this makes everything 10% faster, because if that is the case, it's an instant get. But if you do know, please let me know in a comment down below. So for the Research Bureau, what do you get? I'd say the Ergonomics Office. That's really the core of it. Oh, I might have skipped the Fundamental Lab. Now, this gives you a 3% bonus to all of it. Pretty valuable for 90k, because you'll be spending a lot of time in your research, and I'd have, ideally, more people working on it. And sure enough, if you want to get 4 buildings, you can get structure, mobility, and firepower, because 10% research, especially over longer periods of time, can be very valuable. So get ergonomics office, structure, mobility, and firepower. And that is with the caveat that I don't strictly know what the analytics division does. Then we have the admin building. You can see I already have the fire stations. Fire is no joke. A fire can shut down your production hall for a pretty extensive period of time. And that can make or break a contract. So this is basically an insurance policy. This goes and reduces the fire chance. It does not negate the fire chance. Like, it's not a magic bullet that makes sure that there's never a fire. I've had this thing and I have still had fires. So the fire station, yes, it's valuable. Maintenance office makes every single building cheaper. Very, very, very valuable. Because buildings add up to a lot of your maintenance. It is 61k. My workers cost me half of that. My engineers cost me a fraction of that. It is really not that expensive. The maintenance, especially once you start adding additional buildings, this becomes very, very valuable. Highly recommend it. Medical stations. It's basically your fire station, but for your staff. The thing is, I've not had this happen yet. I've not had accidents on my factory grounds. If you find that as the game changes, this starts to increase, definitely get one of these. Otherwise, I'd skip it. Construction department. What does this do? It reduces the construction time for all facilities and main building upgrades. Now, I cannot speak yet to a main building upgrade because I don't know how long that's going to take. This is a building that maybe you build every now and then. Let's say that you're able to get to the next tier at some point, and at least in this version of the video that I'm recording, you don't have that ability yet. Let's say you're able to get to tier 2, and you're somehow swimming in cash. You're able to get all of your buildings upgraded to tier 2, but it's going to cost you a lot of time. Then you build this. You build this, you keep it around until everything's upgraded, and then you just demolish it. And with that, you get quite a nice amount of construction time back. Other than that, I'd say just be a little patient and get the buildings over time, because it takes 20% off of building, what, 60 days? So you get 12 days back? I don't really care for 12 days in the grand scheme of 10 years. And of course, I'm not just building one building. I might be building, like, what do we have? We get 6 main buildings, times 4 upgrades, or times 4 facilities. It might add up over time, but short run, not really. The bank department. Experienced entrepreneurs will ensure that they provide you with better terms on bank loans. Here's the thing, though. Overall, I have maybe used a bank loan once as a bit of a bridge loan. But outside of that, I, as much as I can, play without loans. Because the loans, especially their interest, add up a lot. So just, I don't know, if you don't have a loan, you don't need a bank department. Heavy vehicles station. Reduction of construction cost for all facilities and main building upgrades. So this is kind of the counterpart to the maintenance one. This reduces the, let's say, the permanent cost, the cost that you pay every single month. This is building. Again, if you're building a lot of buildings, or if you're planning to get a lot of facilities, definitely worth it. Because 15% adds up pretty quick. It means that with 6 buildings, or 6 facilities rather, this thing has probably earned itself back. Other than that, I'd say you're paying quite a bit for something that's not strictly valuable. So it's one of those buildings that you want to have if you're actively developing your factory. Lobbying office. Now this can be useful. The thing is, however, there is no influence point system yet. I do kind of know what the devs are referring to, which is a system that they are working on implementing or planning to implement, where you can get influence points with a nation. This is going to help with that, but as it is, at least in this current video, not yet in the game, just don't get it. Finally, the admin council. What does this do? Bonus to administrator perks. Very valuable. It might not look that impressive, like 25% to admin perks. Okay. Big deal. Why do we care? Well, if you look over at William Tritton, that means that I can have, for example, another 12 workers. It means that my assembly focus, so the man-hour cost reduction, goes up by a bit more. So I can get tanks out even faster. And that's while he's in these buildings. You can also have him, for example, in the resource storage. And then he's going to have a reduction of delivery tank time. Stack this with the 2 building upgrades that I've discussed. And the admin building upgrade, the admin council. And you can have your tanks out the door really quickly. So yeah, the admin council, I highly recommend it. So to recoup for the admin, administration's upgrades, maintenance, fire, and admin. The rest of them, situational. Construction if you're building a lot. The heavy vehicle station, again, if you're building a lot, but beyond that, not that valuable. And then I'd say prioritize the cost, the construction cost. Because money is something that you tend to be a little stressed for. Construction time, not so much. Last building, the production hall. Loads of upgrades. Ergonomics office takes the primary spot. Because this thing means you can have an additional 100 workers per line. That is a lot of expansion of your workforce. Now, as it happens right now, I can have quite a lot of people working on a line. That's 300. And that's because I have that administrator running this place. If I also get the ergonomics office, that bonus from the administrator becomes even better. I can have, I think, 430 people working on a line. Now that cranks tanks out this production hall very, very quickly. So highly recommend it. Sub-assembly. Man-hour cost reduction for how long it takes to build. Highly recommended. You want to start cranking out tanks fast? Get this. Retooling. Assembly line preparation time for a new tank model. In the current version of the game, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen that if you are switching from one line to another, there is a preparation line. So I'm not sure if you actually need this, because I've never run into the issue. Recycling. If you're cancelling your order, the material is going to get recycled. And this reduces the amount of lost resources. If you plan your production, and let's say you do mess up at some point, you build, I don't know, 5 tanks that you don't strictly need, just sell them off cheap. Say, hey dude, sorry, I cannot provide you with 20 tanks, but sometimes, let's say the minor nations, they only want 5 tanks. Give them away, or just get a very small price for them, and this is really not useful, this building. You don't need a recycling line. Cutting hole. These, the cutting hole, the hardening hole, the rolling hole, the welding hole, the casting hole, the riveting hole, the rifling hole, the milling hole, and the bending hole all give you 10% bonuses to various parts of the tank. The thing is, this is gonna somewhat vary per tank. This tank, the Mark I, requires, or at least prefers to have, the machinery workshop. It would like you to have the machinery workshop, the riveting focus, the cutting focus, the rifling focus, and the milling focus. Lovely. At some point, we might be getting to rolling armor, like rolled homogeneous steel. And you can already see that if I'm switching to a new tank that I've created, like less than a month or 2 after the first one, I already need something new. Right. I'm not going to be constantly building these additional buildings. Which one is most useful? I'd say the riveting one, if you are using rivets in your tank, that is. The machinery one, because you're always going to be doing some level of rifling for the barrels of your tanks. And maybe the milling focus. Beyond that, I wouldn't strictly pick one specialization, because sometimes that building might give you a bonus, sometimes it might not. So which one should you get? Ergonomics, subassembly, and maybe riveting or welding. And again, maybe one after the other. Like first eras, you're going to be doing some riveting. But after a while, you might just remove that entirely and start welding or rolling. So keep up with the various buildings that your factory is going to have. Also, what I have heard from the various devlogs, if at some point you're able to upgrade the building, you'll also be able to get more facilities. For now, you're stuck with 4, so pick wisely. Alright, so those were my picks for the various buildings that you can get on Arms Trade Tycoon tanks. Let me know which ones you pick for what building and why. I'm looking forward to seeing your insights down below. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more.